Welcome everybody to the Wake Up Call channel. If this doesn't get you suspicious to figure out how this global government works, well, I don't know if anything will. Pope Francis is meeting with a large group of global comedians. So comedians from America, comedians from the UK, Australia, etc. Because, these are important issues, right? Having comedians come in and speak with the Pope. So you might wonder, well, what's this really about? Well, this is about changing what comedy is. This is about social engineering and using the comedians to do that. Now, if you've read 1984 or seen the movie, there is no comedy in a 1984 world. There is no comedy anymore because it's offensive. And you may have noticed around you how people are trying to cancel comedians, right? The border, the wall between, well, what's a joke and what's not a joke is being removed, of course, which again is about behavioral control and speech control. And we know that people can use comedy as a way to say, look, I'm just cracking a joke about it. I'm a comedian. They don't want that because then people like me and you could start, and we've tried. We could say, hey, it's a satire. I'm just, mocking these people. I don't mean it. Well, that's not going to exist anymore. So the Pope has called on Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, Conan O'Brien, Whoopi Goldberg, Tig Notaro, who apparently this is a comedian in today's world, which you can look at Tig Notaro, right? And you can see why it's a promoted comedian, not because it's funny, it's because of its gender ideologies, right? But that's what this is really about. So I'm sure it won't really be Pope Francis who's meeting with them. It'll be the Black Pope. And no, I don't mean black, the skin color. I mean the Black Pope, the hidden Pope who pulls the strings, as Pope Francis is obviously the puppeteer out in the public. So let's start with the ones that are going, right? Stephen Colbert. We've seen him doing the all-seeing eye symbolism. He's one of the more obvious ones. I've covered him a lot over the years. Stephen Colbert, if anybody thinks that these people are there because they're talented, is the perfect example to always use. There is no talent. There's nobody other than a complete zombie who's staring at a laughing box that finds this guy entertaining to put him on national TV every single night as if he's funny. And what does he joke about? All he does is crack jokes about conservatives, right? Done by design, right? This is how you brainwash the sheeple. So Colbert, we've seen doing the all-seeing eye. Of course, you may remember many moons ago, I covered Colbert and his connection to a pizza place, which you're not allowed to talk about. Of course, one of the people involved was one of his best buddies, Skippy, let's just say that, who, Stephen Colbert's very, very good friends with. Now we have Whoopi Goldberg attending. Of course, Whoopi fits the bill along with Colbert. Whoopi Goldberg is not funny at all. I don't even know if Whoopi Goldberg's really ever done or attempted to do comedy, but not funny at all. We've seen Whoopi doing all-seeing eye symbolism all the time. Of course, we've seen Whoopi even having the courage, and I say the courage, I should say the balls, to go on national TV wearing her Prince Hall Freemason coat, which, of course, she poo-pooed after the fact, after people came out and exposed the connection, saying it was just some shirt that she found and put on. She has no idea what it means. Of course, the Prince Hall Black Fraternal Order in Freemasonry. We're supposed to believe, yeah, of course, you could just randomly wear whatever you want on national TV. The sheeple out there actually believe that. Like she went to some thrift shop, threw it on and showed up there and has no idea what it means, right? As if some Christian would just go somewhere, throw something on that had the devil on it and would go on national TV with it on, right? She doesn't know, of course. They just say stuff like that because they know the people are too dumb to ever understand. Then, of course, Conan O'Brien will be there. Most of you probably don't know. I don't know if I've covered Conan O'Brien over the years, but we've seen Conan O'Brien with the owl on his shoulder in a lot of the headshots and magazine shoots that he's done. That's because he's another Bohemian member, right? You might remember a couple years ago, retired General Stanley McChrystal, Conan O'Brien highlight secret Bohemian Grove gathering. They brought Conan in, to do a couple sets of stand-up comedy at the Bohemian Grove right before, of course, they ate some children. Because, you're not bringing somebody into the Bohemian Grove unless they're one of them, which, again, wink, wink at Alex Jones is getting inside, which people think somehow you could just run inside of this place. You can't. You can't get in unless you're one of them. You will be taken out immediately. Then, some people have commented, they say, well, I've seen people get into Bohemian Grove, and YouTube videos have millions of views. Oh, right, when somebody sneaks in the dead of winter on a canoe and walks around filming it, not showing you anything suspicious, just showing you, ooh, spooky buildings, right? It's not like the kid went in there and filmed it, and suddenly you saw a ritual circle and bones inside of it. Then it'll be a little bit different, right? They want you to think, oh, it's a spooky little campground, and they go there, here, and there. It's all controlled, okay? If I walked up to Bohemian Grove today and I tried to get inside, I get sniped. Let's be real. I walked up there, that's what would happen to me. And if I didn't get sniped on the property, I'd get sniped in the night. Okay, I'd have myself an accident. So Conan O'Brien, Bohemian member, of course, Conan always doing the shh symbolism, right out in plain sight, of course. The secret brotherhood that he's referring to is Freemasonry and the secret societies that he's a part of. Jim Gaffigan's another comedian who's going to be there, who's, I've heard, videos, and I've seen, read some things where people have said that he's actually the current high-ranking priest in Hollywood. All right, Jim Carrey was at one point. That moved on. I think Paul Mitchell was one at one point in another state. They're high-ranking priests and priestess in satanic covens in these locations. And in Hollywood, it was believed that it was most recently Martin Scorsese, and now I've heard that it's supposedly Jim Gaffigan, who is out in the open, very popular comedian. I believe he was just I covered it at some award show where he was mocking the whole thing that happens with children on that island. So Jimmy Fallon, of course, we've seen him doing the Masonic stuff all the time. He's another guy who is not funny at all, who, is on national television, supposedly supposed to be funny. And of course, another guy who's going to be at this meeting is Reverend James Martin, an influential Jesuit priest. So they put it out in plain sight, your Jesuit order, of course, of the New World Order. And he happens to be a very prominent preacher who is doing everything he can to lukewarm his church, because he's probably likely not a real Christian, who is trying to merge, of course, the LGBT community with the church. So you might be saying, well, what are they all meeting for? Now that you've told us that these are all obvious government agents, they're meeting to talk, and I'll read the articles to you, about comedy and the field of humor, because they're about to change it. I guarantee you some of the stuff they'll start talking about is what they can and cannot talk about, what they can and cannot joke about. No more jokes. Now, not that they do it anymore, the LGBT stuff, but how they're going to start gearing their comedy and be more sensitive, right? So comedy suddenly is not comedy anymore, which these people that I'm mentioning are not funny in the first place, right? I mean, comedy has become, you look back at old comedy, Carlin or Eddie Murphy from back in the 80s, okay, and you compare it to today, other than maybe Chappelle, I mean, the stuff that they talk about, it's not funny. But when they put a laugh box on, most of the sheeple out there don't realize they're being trained to laugh at things that aren't funny, and then the audience at home laughs because they hear them laughing. That's how the whole mind control operation is supposed to work. So they say, heard about the one where Pope Francis goes into a room full of jokers? You're about to. The leader of the Catholic Church will take the mic Friday for a meeting with leading figures in the field of humor from various parts of the world, the Vatican announced. Among the confirmed invitees is NBC's very own Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, Jim Gaffigan, Conan O'Brien, Chris Rock, Whoopi Goldberg, and Tig Notaro. And those are just the Americans. Some 105 comedians and humorists from 14 other countries, including some not exactly known for stand-up, like East Timor, are coming to watch the Pope work the room. Specifically a room in the Vatican. The stated purpose of this comedic conclave is, according to a Vatican press release, quote, to celebrate the beauty of human diversity and promote a message of peace, love, and solidarity. So there it is right there, right? This is a social engineering tactic where they're going to get their orders directly from the Vatican on how to celebrate peace, love, and solidarity in comedy, right? So they're going to continually tell you what is allowed to be funny, what you're allowed to say, and what you're not. We're going to start seeing this. This is part of what's been going on with Chappelle. Many people believe it's not even the same Dave Chappelle. I won't get into that. But the stuff you've seen with Chappelle, right? Chappelle talking about the trans and this and that. Should he be able to talk about it? Instead of saying, there's free speech, he can say whatever he wants, right? He should be able to say whatever he wants. People out there should be able to deal with it. If it hurts their feelings, tough. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. So part of the stuff you've been seeing with him has been about changing comedy. What's right? What's wrong? Who could say this? Who could say that? Do comedy while celebrating diversity and promoting a message of peace, love, and solidarity. So in other words, most comedy that most people find funny will not be allowed anymore. And they won't tell you, hey, we're banning comedy. They're just going to say, well, comedians have changed with the times. Of peace, love, and this is what's funny now. So you better find it funny. Okay? And if you try to crack jokes about this other stuff, you will be canceled and imprisoned, because even if people are laughing at it, we're not allowing it to be funny because it's hateful. That's what they're telling you. And you're going to be forced into laughing, even though no one will laugh except some of these, libs out there who, walk around with blue hair and these lib glasses, who really are just living in an alternate universe, who find the most dorky stuff possible funny, that's what they want to be funny. It's a dystopian society. And again, 1984, there is no comedy. You're not allowed to laugh unless they tell you it's something you can laugh at. You can't go outside the box. A comedy is something that has been this borderline thing with free speech, has it not? People are like, well, he's just joking, so he can say it. Well, they don't want that. That has to be removed. That's why they're meeting at the Vatican, okay? To remove certain comedy, to tell the comedians, don't even put this in your act, tell the other comedians at home, because of course, every single comedian on earth can't show up here, but these people can set the precedent. Then they can go back and report to their local lodges, not lodges, but their local, secret societies, the other comedians they hang out with. These are the orders from the Vatican. This is what we can and cannot say. This is what we can and cannot talk about. This is the shift that we have to make, okay? They'll probably do another big publicity thing with someone like Chappelle, and they'll say, well, his comedy act led to more people hurting themselves or this or that. Those will be the false flags that come of it. And they'll say, look, we can't crack jokes about this stuff anymore. That's what's coming. Because if we follow the blueprint that they're using in 1984, which is what they're using, there ain't gonna be no comedy, because that gives people an out to say how they feel, to crack jokes about things you're not gonna be allowed to talk about. This is behavioral control 101. So peace, love, and solidarity kind of ties in with everything we hear at the New World Order. And of course, what are we also going to hear, right? Peace, love, and solidarity. Who's going to come in the name of peace and love? Oh, the Antichrist is. The deceptions are coming in the name of peace and love. That's what you're seeing right now. So the Pope, they say, quote, as far as I know, it would be an audience with the Pope where he speaks about humor to them. That was, again, according to Reverend James Martin, the influential Jesuit. That will be followed, Martin wrote, by some individual FaceTime with the Pope and a news conference. So the Pope will meet with these people directly, probably the Black Pope. They go on to brag about Martin, who runs an outreach ministry for the LGBTQ Catholics. Said he got an invitation because he's the author of a book called Faith and Funniness, which I guarantee is not funny at all. Between Heaven and Mirth, Why Joy, Humor, and Laughter Are the Heart of Spiritual Life, right? Yeah, humor and joy and laughter is very important. But to them, they know that. They have to tell you what is funny now. What is allowed to be funny, what's not allowed to be funny. They're going to give you the blueprint of what comedy is, right? You can't look at it a broad stroke anymore. You can't think this random thing over here is funny because it's offensive. So now they're going to tell you, yes, we all need laughter, but we're going to tell you what you can and cannot laugh at. So the gathering was organized by the Vatican. Last year, they put it together. 200 prominent artists with the Pope met at the Sistine Chapel. The biggest contingent of comedians for Friday's event are locals from Italy, who number 67 according to the Vatican. There will also be one stand-up comedian from the Pope's native Argentina, someone by the name of Melina Gunsberg. Probably got a big old nose. The other yucksters are from Brazil, Colombia, France, Germany, Ireland, Mexico, Poland, Portugal, Spain, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. Again, this is what we're headed towards. So if you haven't been paying attention to that, as far as comedy, as far as the stuff I mentioned with Chappelle, pay attention to it, because this is going to filter down to all of us. We can look at it and say, well, now they're going to, whatever, I don't like any of these celebrities anymore anyway, right? But there's this kind of this fine line. Can somebody go on stage and say something offensive? Yeah, they can, right? How many people out there have been debating about the comedians? They're all done by design, by the Chappelle story. Chappelle went out, talked about the Synagogue of Satan, talked about the trans stuff, cracked jokes about it. One side thought it was hilarious. What did the other side think? Time to cancel him. We hate him. Put him in jail, most of them were saying. That's how insane and unhinged they are, where they're so weak as human beings that speech hurts their feelings so much so that they want people in prison, which shows you a pathetic society that we're living in, where none of these people could defend themselves and they call on Big Brother to do it. Meanwhile, Big Brother is baiting them into all of this because Big Brother wants all this stuff in place, and then Big Brother is going to turn around and pretty much curb stomp all these people that are putting these laws and things in place for them. So they don't see it coming because, again, we're talking about naive narcissists, so you can't expect them to see it coming. But it is coming. So all of these people who are going there, okay, from Whoopi Goldberg to Stephen Colbert to Conan O'Brien, okay, these are all members of secret societies who are placed in the positions they're in, right? Now they're being told, look, we're getting closer and closer to the end here of the establishment of this New World Order. Now, even though you've been doing different comedy in the past, this is what you're going to do, okay? And when people crack this other type of comedy, you're going to condemn them on national TV, start talking to your audiences about comedy, the fine line between free speech and comedy and art, quote, quote, and what's right and hateful. And that's what you'll start hearing them talk about. I guarantee you. Whoopi Goldberg will be one of the faces out there, even though Whoopi Goldberg couldn't crack a joke if it was written for him, her, whatever. Okay, they'll start working their audience with this stuff, and that audience will, just like they do with everything else, ask for these laws and these rights and these bills to be passed, cancel certain comedians. You'll see false flags probably, again, around prominent comedians who have offensive content, which, again, you can just turn it off if you don't like it. That's not an option, though, in a New World Order. You can't turn it off. Got to be able to control speech fully. That's what this is about. 1984, remember, ain't no comedy in 1984. And there ain't going to be any comedy by the year 2030 either. I thank you for being here. Hope you're all well. God bless you and your families as always.